Welcome to another tractor video. My name is Ed. This is Suburban Living. I've been asked to do a video about the clutch setup on a Suburban tractor. This is a Sears Super 12 and I put this Predator engine in it. This is a 301 Predator. Obviously not the original engine. If I had original Tecumseh that ran good, I'd certainly be very happy with it, but I don't have that. I put this engine in here. It works really well. And I've been asked about the clutch setup. And it may be difficult. If I'd done this as I was building it, may be a little easier to see. But you see a bracket here, bolted to the frame, not welded to the frame, but bolted to the frame. You see the spring here going up to a large eye bolt. I'll show you where that goes here in just a moment. And this is the original clutch bracket, or I should say an original clutch bracket from one of these. The way this works, this spring pulls this pulley up to pull the belt into the bottom of the pulleys. My understanding is, only from reading, only from watching other videos, that these pull from the bottom of the pulley. And so this pulley that we have here present, I hope you can see this all right, this pulley pulls it up tight and it pulls it into the bottom of this pulley and then the pulley that is on the rear transaxle. Now when this is depressed, when the clutch is pushed in, I'm just doing this with my finger, this shoe, if that's the right name for it that I have my thumb on here now, presses down against the belt. That's very important. It's very important that this pushes against the belt. This serves as a brake in a sense, and it also serves to push the belt out of the pulleys. That way when you push the clutch in, the transaxle pulley is not moving at all. Let me show you a close-up of this pulley over here on my workbench. My makeshift workbench, I should say. This is a pulley out of my Suburban 12, my 68. This is the original pulley that was there. This is a different setup that we have here, but it's the same thing. This originally was bolted to the back of a Tecumseh engine. It's bolted to the Tecumseh engine and the pulley runs like this. Well, I have no Tecumseh engine, so what I have done, I have taken this bracket and it is laid flat like this. I'm just using the same bracket. I'm not modifying it in any way. I'm using the same bracket and I'm bolting this onto the frame. Now I'm going to carry this over to the tractor and try to show this. Down there you see it's black. Here it is. This is exactly what I have down there. It is bolted to the frame. And then also this section right here, the upper corner. Some people I have seen weld these into the tractor here and weld up here. If you like to do that, that's certainly fine, but this is solid as a rock, just 2 bolts, and it's just coming down against. Now, I can't budge that at all, just based on these 2 bolts that I have present. Now, what you have to understand, if you do this, you have to cut a notch out of this this shelf area of your frame. The way I have it, I had to cut a notch. Now you may not like to do that. Originally when I did that, I decided to cut it out as neatly as possible in case I wanted to go back original. Then I could weld that back in, grind it down, and nobody would ever know about it. Let me take you over here now to the whiteboard. Let me show you some things that are very important. Okay, we're here at the whiteboard, and I'm certainly not an artist, but I'm going to draw this as the frame. And let's just say this is the engine. I know the engines don't stand like that anymore, and this is the shaft on the side of the engine. This is the pulley. Well, when you put the clutch bracket in, you want to make sure that this area, this is the pivot portion, of this pivot portion, you want the pivot portion to be at least parallel with this shaft, if not just a little bit higher. Now when I put the bracket in, let's say it goes here and it goes up here, it comes up and we have the pivot point. Now, as rough as my drawing is, you can understand what I'm talking about. This hole is the pivot point. What that allows to happen, putting this in, what that allows to happen is for when the spring is pulled up, the pulley is pulled up above the level of the pulley on the engine. Now, why is that important? That's important because when you depress the clutch and it pulls this down, it allows this shoe, it allows this stop, if you will, to come down and push against the belt. That way we have pulley up here going down to the transaxle pulley, and this comes, of course there's an idler pulley here, comes up around this pulley here and back. Now that's very crude, certainly, but it allows that pulley here to pull the belt into these pulleys. And then as it does that, it runs fine, and then when you depress the clutch, this comes down, and the little shoe that's up here that I've been showing and talking about comes against the belt, and it pushes the belt out of this pulley and out of here. And that way your transaxle is not turning. What happens if your transaxle is turning even a little bit, when you go to put it in gear, when you go to move the gear shift, it's going to grind. The gears are going to grind. But if you set this up properly with this pivot point, at least parallel with the shaft of the engine, if not a little bit higher, is going to make that work smoothly and perfectly. Let me take you back over here to the tractor again and show you again. Let me show you this pulley again. These pulleys, by the way, can be replaced with pulleys from Tractor Supply. You can get those. This one's actually seized up. You might be able to put something in there to get that unseized, but as cheap as they are, I just soon buy a new pulley. Something else, these originally were made with a cotter key. Cotter key here, and that's where the original spring's hooked on. So a nice setup, and as this is pushed down, of course this is the part that goes against the belt. Alright, I've showed you this a few times. Let me show you something I have done here. I really can't get in there to see. I apologize. I have taken out the cotter key. The cotter key is not there. This is the cotter key area. I took this out. And also, running this spring, now this may not work for everybody, but I don't have a choke cable in my tractor presently. I choke it by hand, and I put an eye bolt through that choke cable hole. Let me show you over here. There's a bolt here. I know that doesn't look factory, it doesn't look right, it's underneath choke right there, but this is the way I did it. You could do it in a different way. I'm sure some people do it differently than that, and I just got this spring at my local Tractor Supply, I believe it was, maybe my local Ace Hardware. You don't really want a super stiff spring because that's a lot of pressure to be putting on these things, but you don't want one that's real light either. And I can push that down with my hand. I can take my finger and I can push that down, I can depress that. Alright, so that's the way it works, and you might be able to see, I'm pushing down. When I'm pushing that down, the bracket is not moving at all. Two simple bolts that run that. Now as you come down here and look at it from the back side, I'm trying to give you every angle of this. Now something else you need to do, as I said, you need to cut out a section here in your frame for this bracket to come up through. And then also you might have to change the length of this clutch rod. The way this works, when you push it up, of course the clutch rod comes up, shoves that up, and then pushes that down. I just took the clutch rod, put it in my vise, drove it over with a hammer, cut it off, drilled a hole through it, and I've also made them before. This bolt that you see here, I just have my throttle cable attached to that just to keep it out of the way. I routed the throttle cable there up through onto a bracket here, and then up around through. That way it's nice and it's neat, and it is indeed out of the way. Well, I hope you find some use in this video as to how these clutches may work. I hope as you're doing this type of project that it works for you. And you can see how that stock comes right down against. Now if I had this running, and that would be difficult for me to talk and do, but if we had this running, you would see this pushes down and stops, and then the gears do not grind when you go to put it in first, second, third, or reverse. Thank you for watching. If you have any questions, I might be able to answer those questions through comments below, or you might be able to send me a message and we can talk about it in that way. Thank you so kindly for watching this video. You have a great day.